Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really complex topic.
Definitely complex.
It's sparked by a YouTube transcript that you, our listener, sent us. It's from All Asian Dilemmas.
Right.
And it really gets into the different reactions and societal issues around Chinese women dating foreign men.
Yeah, it's a sensitive one, touches on personal choice, cultural stuff, even history, So unpacking it means looking at all these different viewpoints carefully.
Exactly. So our mission here is to really get to the heart of what's being said in the video, the arguments, the experiences.
Understand the why behind some of these, strong reactions.
And pinpoint the core tensions. We've got quite a range of perspectives. This male follower's rejection, observations of interactions, personal stories.
Like from Shin and the woman in the U.S.
Yeah, and then viewpoints from commentators like Simon and a Western perspective, too.
Okay.
Okay, so let's dive in. First up, that male follower's reaction. It was pretty intense.
It really was. What struck me was how absolute he was. He said, he could accept a woman who was divorced, maybe even had kids.
Right.
But living with a black man for a year, that was a definite no for him. And he specifically said it wasn't about money.
Yeah, the wealth didn't matter. So his reason, or maybe his inability to accept it, it brings up this central question, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean women with that kind of dating history are seen as, damaged goods or something, facing marriageability issues?
It certainly suggests that for him and maybe others who think like him, it crosses some kind of line. It could tap into older ideas about lineage or cultural purity.
Like a specific taboo being violated, more so than divorce.
Possibly. It seems that way from his reaction, yeah. A boundary he just wouldn't cross.
Okay. The video then sort of zooms out a bit, talks about general observations, this perception that that it's somehow easy for foreigners to win over Chinese girls.
Right, that perception. There's mention of viral videos showing really intense affection.
So why might that perception exist? Is it just about, individual chemistry or something more?
Well, the video questions that, right? Is it just charm, or are there bigger cultural things happening? It contrasts the approach, for example.
How so?
Well, the directness some foreign men might show compliments, asking someone out quickly, versus maybe a more reserved approach some Chinese men might take initially.
So like different dating scripts almost.
Kind of. And the video mentions this idea of a Hollywood vibe.
Ah, yeah, that freedom thing.
Exactly. That
Okay.
this different, maybe more exotic approach feels exciting or liberating to some women, compared to what they're used to, perhaps.
Interesting. Could be that perceived boldness is seen as confidence, a break from tradition.
It could be interpreted that way, definitely. A mix of maybe traditional expectations clashing with a desire for something different.
But then, the conversation takes a really sharp turn.
Yeah, it gets into the darker side. Scams, exploitation, very serious stuff.
That story about Livia back in 2004.
Wow.
Wow. Losing her savings, getting pregnant, contracting HIV.
After moving abroad for a man she met online who then just vanished.
It's just awful. A really stark reminder of the risks, isn't it? Especially
Right.
with online meetings, potential power imbalances.
Huge potential for harm, emotional and financial, and it's not just isolated cases, sadly.
Because then it mentions guys bragging online,
Yeah.
seducing Chinese women like a game, a conquest.
That's disturbing. And then the Maynard scandal in Chengdu.
Unbelievable.
What?
Targeting, over 1,200 women, secret recordings,
Yeah.
and then selling a guide on how to do it.
How to seduce Chinese girls at will. Just predatory, pure objectification.
Treating women like trophies, it really fuels that awful perception of ease, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. A very dark side to these interactions.
So this leads into talking about cultural factors, double standards, maybe.
Mhm.
The video suggests this idea that maybe a sort of historical admiration for the West plays a role, makes foreign men seem, better somehow.
It's possible. If media or historical narratives portray Western cultures as more modern or romantic.
Right, compared to maybe Chinese men being shown as more work-focused or boring.
That contrast is mentioned.
Yeah.
And it could influence perceptions, yeah.
And then there are the practical burdens, the expectations on Chinese men, buying houses, dowries.
Things that foreign men might not face in the same way in that context.
Right, and that anecdote about mothers-in-law maybe having lower standards for foreign sons-in-law,
Yeah.
the simple house being okay.
That's a really interesting point about potentially unequal expectations. You can see how that might lead to feelings of, resentment or unfairness among some Chinese men.
Definitely. Okay, then we hear directly from Shin. her personal story.
Yeah, a really powerful account. She was in a loving relationship with a foreigner.
But the external pressure was just too much.
Exactly. Parents disapproving, friends judging, even her partner worried about her relationship with her family. They ended up breaking up because of it.
It's just so tough.
Mm.
When outside forces basically dictate your personal life.
It really highlights the clash between individual feelings and these strong cultural or family pressures.
And what she faced afterwards. The prejudice from some Chinese men, viewing her as impure or secondhand just for dating a foreigner.
It's awful. Her question, why does love need a passport? Why is her worth judged by her past? It really hits home.
It really does. Challenges those double standards head on.
Absolutely.
Okay, another perspective now. A Chinese woman living in the U.S.
Right, and she brings this overseas view. She's angry, worried.
About what specifically?
About the stereotype of Chinese women being easy outside China. She feels things like TikTok are fueling it.
And she sees foreign men treating Chinese women like, what did she call it, consolation prizes?
Exotic trophies,
Yeah.
yeah. She mentions seeing these demeaning stereotypes play out, like older white men with younger, attractive Asian women.
So she's concerned that these online interactions, women maybe seeking foreign partners online, are just feeding into negative stereotypes and opening the door for scammers.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
That it reinforces harmful perceptions on a global scale and creates vulnerabilities. It's another crucial layer to this whole thing.
Then we get Simon's take. He focuses on the gender imbalance in interracial dating.
Yeah, that observation that you see Asian women with white men fairly often.
But the reverse Asian men with white women is much rarer, both in China and in the West.
And he offers some potential reasons, pretty blunt ones, actually.
Like what?
Well, things like physical appearance preferences, Western women often preferring taller, stronger builds, maybe.
Great.
And cultural differences in communication, Eastern modesty versus Western confidence, maybe. Perceptions of Asian men being too shy or serious too soon.
He even suggests Asian men are less popular with white women than, say, black men are.
He does mention that, and that the Western women who are often interested tend to have this very specific, almost obsessive interest in Eastern culture.
Wow. So pretty brutal honesty about the low probability of just a random white woman being interested.
Very direct, and he connects this back to the prejudice from some Chinese men.
How so?
Suggesting that maybe feeling rejected or overlooked themselves contributes to resentment when they see Chinese women dating foreign men. It's complex. Frustration leading to negativity.
Yeah, that adds another layer of potential motivation. Okay, finally, there's the Western commentator's perspective, looking from the outside in.
Right. And his view is that the reaction from some Chinese men might be rooted in, well, jealousy, a kind of territorial thing.
He compares it to reactions in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, draws that parallel. He also points to the perceived advantages foreign men might offer wealth, opportunities.
And contrasts it with how normal interracial relationships are seen in the U.S., for example.
Exactly. Suggesting that in cultures perceived as more closed off, these relationships just hit differently. They're viewed through a different lens.
He also brings up just natural human curiosity, right?
Okay.
Especially for young people, being drawn to what's different.
That element, too. So his conclusion is basically that it's a mix.
A mix of what?
Cultural pride, maybe some fear of losing local women, and underlying insecurities. It kind of brings a lot of the threads together.
It does seem to tie things up, showing it's not just one single thing.
Definitely not. It's a whole confluence of factors, historical, cultural, social, personal, all feeding into these complex dynamics.
So, yeah, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's just incredibly clear how multifaceted this issue is. Chinese women dating foreign men. It's not simple.
Not all.
We've heard everything from deep personal love stories and painful prejudice to these wider societal anxieties, exploitation risks.
It really throws that tension into sharp relief, doesn't it? Individual choices versus these really ingrained societal norms and biases.
Yeah, it makes you think about all the things that shape how we see relationships across cultures. So here's something to maybe chew on. After hearing all these different viewpoints from the source material, what do you think are the biggest roadblocks? The most significant barriers to having truly open, accepting, cross-cultural relationships?
That's a big question.
It is. And whose job is it to fix it? Is it down to individuals? Does the whole culture need to shift somehow? Or is it, somewhere in between? Definitely gives you a lot to consider.
It certainly does.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.